Here we have the FP2 Presence Sensor from Aqara. And this presence sensor could change the game in how we automate our home. What Aqara claims is that you can define different areas or different zones in your home and have automations based on those zones. So for example, say you have a seating area in one of your rooms in your home, the presence sensor will be able to detect you at that reading area. Say, you have a comfy chair you like to sit in with a reading light. Once you sit in that chair, the sensor should detect your presence and switch on the light. And you can have that automation run for any time of day, especially obviously after it gets dark and when you need light the most. When I think about what this presence sensor can think, I always think of those movies you watch where they have lights following people throughout a room. Well, this should be able to enable that. As you enter a room or areas of a room, the light should come on, or whatever other automations you have set for that, if you want music to play or anything really. So I'm really excited to see how this presence sensor works. So in this video, we're gonna unbox it, set it up, and I'll try and demonstrate its capabilities, and I'll give you my thoughts afterwards. And I'd like to thank Aqara for sending this out for testing and review. So let's get right to it and see what comes in the box. This is the Aqara Presence Sensor FP2, and important to us is it works with Apple Home. It features multi-person detection, fall detection and alerts, a built-in light sensor, interference compensation, local automations, and zone positioning. On the back, it says the presence sensor that redefines smart home automations. FP2 features zone positioning that allows users to define different zones within a room. And here, multi-person positioning, fall detection and alerts, interference compensation. And on the bottom, some product specifications. So let's go ahead and open this up. So you get some mounting hardware. This looks like the mount plate with some 3M sticky on the back. You get a USB-C cable, their booklet, their literature, and the Aqara sensor itself. Let's go ahead and take a look at the sensor. So a button on the bottom, indicator light up top. Here is the mounting area, and then this actually, you can pull this out, and under my thumb there is the HomeKit code, and you can position this on a wall, and you can point this presence sensor where you'd like. And there's a pretty good range of motion. So let's go ahead and, actually let's plug this in and set it up. Give you a nice long cable here, and open this up and get to the USB-C port that is right there. Plug that in. Let's go ahead and get this into power. So there it is, it's hooked up to power. You got the LED blinking. I think it's worth noting that Aqara does not include a USB power adapter in the box, so you have to provide your own or plug it into an outlet that may already have one. So let's go ahead and set it up in the Aqara app. We'll go ahead and hit the plus sign to add an accessory, and we'll go ahead and look for the sensor. Presence sensor FP2. Yep, it is flashing. And that is the home. And we'll add the accessory. It's looking for the HomeKit code. Is this little area here. I'm gonna go ahead and scan that. And there it is. Sensor, add to Apple Home. Okay, sensor location. Right now I'm not sure where I'm gonna put it, so let me just pick a room. Yeah, the family room. Let's hit continue. Leave it the default name there, hit continue. So there are the sensor details. There is a light sensor and occupancy sensor. So you're going to hit continue. So the light sensor is great because then you can detect when light is low in the area rather than just a time of day. And it is done. So binding device. And it's been added successfully. And let's go ahead and make it in the, or put it in the family room. Is that even listed here? There it is, in Aqara. And hit next. And card number one, occupancy sensor for, this is again for the Aqara native app. And the icon, we'll go ahead and add it to the home page board. Home board, next card, luminance sensor. There's the icon for it. We'll add it to the home board. And gesture, gesture measuring. We'll go ahead and add that. Hit done, and it is on here. Let's see. So if we click that, you can choose to only enable body existence monitoring. So their descriptions are the body existence monitoring is the mixed mode, which is always enabled by default. Personnel positioning, provide users real-time location data and proximity sensing functions. And fall detection can be used for falling detection. So you can check which ones you want to go by or which ones you want it to enable. If you do pick personal positioning, which I think that's supposed to say instead of personnel. So the sensor angle is 120 degrees, not quite 180. And the distance is 6 to 8 meters, which is about 19 feet to 26 feet, I think. And then the fall detection, if you choose that, those are your options. So you can choose that. I'm going to do personal positioning, not just monitoring whether a person is there, but I want specific location data, or if a person is in a specific area, because that's why we want this presence sensor. So if we do next step, as you can see, it'll sense the area around it. So actually what I think I need to do, I need to finish setup in the room where I'm going to place this. So let's go ahead, let me find an area where I'm going to put this, and then we'll finish up the setup from there. So I'm now downstairs here in our family room, and I decided to place the Aqara Presence Sensor FP2 right here, and hopefully it will cover this entire, what real estate agents like to call a great room. This whole space not only has this section as a family room, back there is the kitchen, and then we have a small dining area there that we call the breakfast nook. Originally I was going to install the FP2 up here in the corner over there, but I found that the USB cable that Aqara includes wasn't long enough. So we have 9 feet high ceilings. So for me to install it like right in the corner, right near the ceiling, I would need probably at least a 15-foot cable to make that work, because I do have an outlet there. So instead I did place it here. This is kind of like our console. We have a TV here and we have a shelf here. It's on a shelf. I have the wire running down. There's a small conduit back there so that if we wanted to put lighted fixtures here, we could. And I run it down behind the TV and below into the cabinets where all the outlets are. So keep that in mind, that placement is going to largely determine how long of a USB cable you need to power the FP2 presence sensor. So I have my iPhone here. Let's go ahead. I'm going to take a seat on the couch and let's set this up properly. So let's go ahead and jump into the Aqara app, and let's go ahead and choose the accessory, the presence sensor FP2. And I already tried to go through setup after I unboxed it. I should be in the room where it's going to be set up, where I am now. And we have some modes here. We can choose installation mode. And if we choose guide installation here, it gives us a few categories. We can only do body existent mode, which is pretty much presence sensor. Then personal positioning, which is what we want to try and do. And fall detection. So guide installation is kind of like an auto setup. Now I haven't had this actually work for me, but let's see if it works this time. Keeping our fingers crossed. As you can see, it says configuring. So it's trying to find the edges where the walls are. tried this before. Haven't had too much luck. Let's see what it does now. Oh, it did. Configuration succeeded. Okay. So now this is the interference auto configuration. So this is going to try and find interference sources, which includes moving objects such as fans, air conditioners. After this configuration, the frets in this area are ignored to improve monitoring accuracy. So if they're stationary objects, but they move, again, like it says, fans, air conditioners, and plants in the wind, if you have a window open and they move, this will try to ignore those. So for this, there's a note that says, ensure that people, pets, and other living beings exit the space area before automatic configuration. So I'm going to exit this space, step over to the side so that it doesn't catch me moving and mark me as interference. So now we're going to go ahead and hit automatic configuration again. Configuration succeeded, and it's showing some interference sources in those areas. And that could be any number of things. It could be, there is a plant back there, and there is a table, and then there obviously is a wall. We're not sure, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and edit. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can edit this by long pressing it. And let me just go ahead and put that there. I'm going to hit save. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and walk around the space. And here is where I am. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk around, try to find the boundaries of an area that I want to monitor. So I'm going to name this area the family room. Going to hit OK. I'm going to walk around the area. I'm going to define the family room by finding where I am in this area. So I'm kind of like at the edge of the wall here. So if it's still capturing me, see, I disappeared. Oh, there I am. So this is kind of trial and error and kind of trying to configure everything. So I'm going to move back into space again, a little bit of the area that I would again call the family room. So I'm going to make this whole square here the family room. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. Then I'm going to select a new monitoring area. We're going to call this the kitchen. And now I'm going to move around in the kitchen area, or what I would define as the kitchen area. And I am here. I'm going to walk to the back of the kitchen area. And here I can see I'm monitoring this area. Then back here now. Let's see. Okay. This is about where I would define, oops, the edge. Okay, I need to deselect. That can be a little tricky. Then I'm going to, and then I do want to make this area here pretty much a square, and the kitchen area. So now there's a third zone in here that I like to call the, we call this, there's a seated area with a table and 4 chairs. We call this like the nook area, the breakfast nook area. And that's where I'm positioned if I'm sitting in one of the chairs. So, oops, I have to save this first. Okay, I want to create a new monitoring area again. I'll call this the nook. So I'm going to go ahead and define that, except for that, as the nook area. So I'm going to save that. And there we are. That is there. Those are the areas defined, exits and entrances. So there is an entrance there. And let me walk to the other. Let's go back. Let me go ahead and hold down this entrance. And I guess I could just draw a new one here. So yeah, this is pretty much the entrance for this whole area. It actually goes all the way back here, so I'll leave it there. And so I'm going to change it. So I thought we could define two separate, but they belong in one. So I'm just going to have it as entrance. And you can see you can dive just as deep as you want to dive into this, or stay very topical with it. I'm just trying to define the areas where I am in the room, and hopefully it captures all of that. I'm gonna go ahead and hit save. Now with the areas defined, we can, if we go back, but for now, I am sitting here on the sofa and it pretty much detected me. So what I can do is, I can now go into, let's go into HomeKit, or the Home app, sorry. And let's find the sensor. And I place the FP2 in what I call the great room. Because again, this is kind of like an open floor plan. So let's see if I can find that in here. There it is. So here are the sensors I have. Right now, the occupancy sensor. This is detecting that there are people here, but what we actually want is the presence sensor. So right now it's triggered because I'm sitting here. So this will give us a clue of where exactly these are located. So since I'm sitting here and it's sensing my presence, I know that this was because I'm sitting in the family room. This is the family room. So I'm gonna call this the family room presence. And choose done. Okay. Now, so I'm going to go ahead and move to the kitchen. And as we watch, we'll see, hopefully, one of these other sensors, presence sensors triggered. There you go. So this is the kitchen presence sensor. So I'm going to go ahead and change the name of this to kitchen. Kind of glitchy there. Don't know why that's doing that. So we have the kitchen and the family room defined. So just to kind of confirm, and when I just triggered, yes, I am sitting at the breakfast nook. So we're just gonna call this the nook. We off in the nook. Done. So now what we can do with these is we can actually start to create automations from these. So let's go do a quick example. One sensor detects something, and this one we're going to do it time-based, or at least when it's darker. So we're going to go into that great room again. We're going to choose the kitchen room, not family, sorry, the kitchen presence. Hit next. Time, this one I am going to pick a time at night. Hit the little eye icon and do it 30 minutes before sunset. When anyone's in the kitchen, it will turn on the main kitchen lights. Turn off never, and that's because, again, we're going to have the presence sensor. And we'll choose that again. So all the way at the bottom. Again. We have the presence sensor, turn it off. So this is kind of getting to where the lights kind of follow you where you are. So we're going to hit done. And let's see just how responsive this is and test it out. Okay, see the lights come on? Oh, here's the one for the kitchen. So I went ahead and I refined my zones a little bit more in the Aqara app. Again, probably not my best work, but it is a bit better. One thing I have to say is make sure you define the edges and the entrances. That way the sensor will know when you may exit and where you may come into the zones or into the room. So if you look, I did do a little bit of a better job there, defining the areas. It takes a while, and I will say if you're gonna set up the zones, make sure you just go ahead and go through it and be very specific and as detailed as you can. Again, defining where the edges and the walls are and where the entrances are is very important so that it knows which zone you're in. So right now I'm standing kind of like on the, really on the border between where the kitchen is, where the lights came on, and where the living room is, and then again, the nook area is back there. So I'm gonna go ahead and walk around and we can see how well the presence sensor fares. I will say it works for the most part, although sometimes it won't pick up on you as quickly as perhaps I'd like it to. And the other thing too is right now I have it set up to turn on when it detects presence and to turn off when presence is no longer detected. What I'll probably do is have it turn off maybe a minute or two after presence is no longer detected, because there were times when it wouldn't capture or know that presence was there and it would turn on and off. So maybe set a buffer of like a minute or two when it stops detecting presence to go ahead and turn those lights off. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn and walk around and hopefully the lights come on as they should. So let's go ahead and go into the, yep, I left. As you can see, I left the kitchen and it turned off the lights there because, again, I had it set to immediately turn off. And that might not be the best setting. So I'll probably adjust that later, but just to show that as soon as I left the kitchen zone or the kitchen area and entered into this family room area, the lights did come on. So that is the behavior that I set it as, and that is the behavior that I want it to work as now. So as we walk here, it still knows I'm in the family room. I'm gonna go head over to the nook area. It turned off the lights in the family room and it turned them on here in the nook. So if I wanted to come here and dine and eat or whatever, I could be here in this area and it should capture me as long as I'm here. Now, Aqara says it can pick up on gestures and even some small movements as like you're breathing. So hopefully that holds true. Now, again, I've been using this and there are some times when maybe the lights won't come on or sometimes it does and it doesn't detect you being there and the lights will flash on and off. We've had that happen a few times while we were eating dinner and it can be annoying. So again, maybe set a 1 minute buffer. Yeah, this is just for demonstration to show how the presence sensor captures you as you walk around the room. So I'm gonna go ahead and go into the kitchen and that'll turn on the lights for the kitchen, as you can see, and then the breakfast nook lights turned off. Finicky sometimes, for the most part, it works. Again, I will have to do some fine tuning with the automations. I suggest you do the same. Yeah, you're really gonna have to tinker with this to get it to work exactly how you want it. Right now, again, I just wanted to show how the lights would come on as you moved around in the room where you have the presence sensor set up. So again, for the most part, I mean, it works. You can see how the lights turn off and then turn on as I enter certain areas of the home. Like I'm in the family room here and I am in frame now. And you can see that I'm in the family room. And then once I leave here, these lights should turn off and go back to the nook area and the lights here should turn on. It'd be good if we could create kind of like a buffer for the areas so that there is a area where the two zones will overlap. Right now you can't set it to do that. Maybe Aqara can put a setting similar to that or something that works like that so that if you are in an area where two zones overlap, the lights will stay on for both of those zones until you exit that zone completely or one of the two zones completely. I like to see a buffer right now. When you configure it, there's hard edges and borders. So it'd be cool to see like a buffer zone or something where you can overlap the zones. I'd like to see that. But again, other than that, for the most part, it works. You can move around in the zones and the lights will either turn on or turn off per your movement. So right now I am in the kitchen. You can see it didn't turn on immediately. There can be a little bit of a delay like that. And it's not perfect, but for the most part it works. And I think there is huge potential in this kind of presence sensor for people. And I think we are close to realizing lights following you around the home as you walk in the areas. And maybe with future firmware updates and refinements to the software and the firmware, the presence sensor will work much better. And there we have the Aqara Presence Sensor FP2. And again, while it is not perfect, generally it works. I'll probably have to do a little bit more refining in defining my zones. And I'll also probably need to tweak my automations a bit. Maybe I'll have them, when I define they turn on, I'll have them turn off after a minute or two. And they should maybe stay on since it's detecting presence. So hopefully that'll alleviate them turning on and off as I enter and exit zones, or when I may be in a buffer zone or an area where it's kind of like bordering the two zones that I have, as you can see in the demonstration I had. Really a lot of potential with the sensor. I'd like to see Aqara again, maybe make some tweaks to the firmware, update the firmware to add more instances where we can have maybe a border area defined so that when you're kind of in that area, a buffer area, where you're straddling two zones, that both those lights stay on, or it detects presence in both those areas for that border zone, so that the lights for both those areas will stay on until you exit both of those zones completely, or the border area completely. That would be a nice little refinement. Also, I really would like to see if maybe they could come out with a version that runs wired as well as possibly a rechargeable lithium battery, because that would give us more flexibility on where we could mount this. And I can see this working in a whole lot of different rooms. As you can see, this is a pretty large room. It is what, again, they call a great room, and which we've divided into a family room, a kind of breakfast nook area, and the kitchen. And I think a lot of the houses now have these open floor plans, and a presence sensor like the FP2 will work great in those areas. So after having the FP2 presence sensor in my home, I am impressed enough that I plan on purchasing 2 more as soon as they're available. One for the room directly behind the camera over here, where we have a living room and a dining room, multifunction room, and also upstairs where we have a loft. And I want to define different areas where there's an area there where I like to sit and either read or use my iPad and do more leisurely things, and also set up a cool automation where we sit down during a certain time, because we do watch TV upstairs at a certain time of night, to dim the lights, bring up some of the ambient lighting, and I really like to set up one of those automations up there with a separate sensor. So are you excited about the FP2 Presence Sensor by Aqara? I'd really like to hear your ideas on how you plan on defining the zones and creating automations for those zones. Maybe you'll have something a lot more creative than what I've done with just having the lights follow me around this area, this great room. So please leave those in the comments below. I'd love to read your ideas, and I love to hear how you are using the presence sensor in your smart home. So that's going to do it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. If you could do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, tap that bell to get notified whenever I post new videos. And if you found this at all useful, and I was a little bit more detailed, so you know what to expect when you're setting up your FP2 presence sensor. So if you found this useful, please give this video a thumbs up. I would very much appreciate it. So until the next one, please take care and be safe out there.